Hi, I'm Scotty Stem, and I am very curious. I'm a reporter, and I want to find out about what it takes to do different jobs. Are math, science, or language arts a part of these jobs? What can you learn about the world and how we are all connected? I know jobs can be fun and exciting, and I am fascinated to find out what skills they actually use every day in their jobs. Today, I'm going to meet Steph, the interior designer. Thanks for joining me today. Tell me about what you do in your job and how you help people.
Well, I help people find ways to use their space better. I help people create solutions for their environments. Whether it's a home or a workspace, I help people design their space exactly for how they're going to use it. An example of how I help people in their space, for instance, if your client is a doctor or a pediatrician, I help create spaces for children that are fun and friendly for these patients. This doctor's office environment helps these children feel safe and comfortable when they visit the doctor. I like to use bright colors on the wall, small, attractive furniture, and comfortable places for them to sit while they wait. I also need to address the doctor's space by solving their problems. There needs to be room and special design for their equipment and important patient paperwork. Finding ways to improve these spaces can help people do their jobs better.
Cool. Sounds like you work really hard to find out exactly what people, or as you say, your clients, need in the space they use. To work as an interior designer, I have learned that you have to follow several steps in the design process. First, you have to do what is called a needs assessment. This means finding out what people actually need in a certain space. You really must need to know exactly what will be going on in these spaces before you can begin your design, right?
Yes, so a needs assessment is important. I need to find out how much space my client needs. If it is a doctor, for example, how many offices are needed? How many seats will there be in the waiting room? How many desks? What type of equipment will be used, and how big will the space need to be so it will all fit? Basically, I ask these questions to my clients, so I find out about all that needs to be going in the space before I start my design.
Okay, so let's hear about the second step in the process for designing a space.
So the second step is the conceptual design. This starts with the idea for the space. Then, I do the drawings for what that idea will actually look like. I need to know the footprint of the building, and then I begin with the layout and flow of the space before I start my sketches and drawings. Sometimes I use idea boards that give examples of what the space may look like, using pictures of finishes and paint colors. These idea boards will also show the types of furniture and materials that will be used and what they will look like. Idea boards are very helpful to show my clients so they can get an idea of what the space is going to look like when it's finished. Then your clients will give you feedback on what they think so far and what else they may want to go into the space before you finish your design.
So let's say you were going to create a design for a new classroom at a school. In this case, your feedback would need to come from teachers and students, right? I bet they could tell you what they do in their classroom, and then you would have lots of good ideas to design a better learning space for them. Okay, so now that I'm beginning to understand how a plan comes to life for a space that you're designing, I want to know what important skills are needed for interior designers as they begin the conceptual designing process.
Okay, in this conceptual design process, there are lots of skill sets involved. The first would be mathematics. First, you have to measure. Then, calculate square footage. For example, how much area is a footprint for an office? Or how much is the footprint for a table and chairs in a restaurant? How much room is there to walk around it? And then you would take that as a multiplier and count how many tables you will want to fit. And then you take that as a multiplier and count how many tables you will want to fit. There are so many things to consider when taking up space. What sometimes people don't know is the more space you use, the more money to build and furnish. This requires another mathematical skill, budgeting and financing your costs for the design. You need to figure out how much the project will cost and find out if your client will be able to afford what they want to build. Your design needs to fit into their budget, and this isn't always an easy thing to do, so you have to carefully use your math to solve this problem.
So, can you tell us about the types of spaces that you design?
So, there are two types of spaces that interior designers generally work with. One is a wide open space that is currently being built and has nothing in it yet. This is called raw space. For these spaces, you create everything: walls, doors, lighting, millwork, which is the woodwork, and everything except for the exterior shell. That means the outside of the building or room. The other spaces are the ones that are already built. Then you are just making changes. Maybe your client just wants change or wants to improve how the space is working for them. In this case, we call this a facelift, which means making something old seem a bit newer.
Okay, so after you design a space, the construction process needs to begin. Who do you work with and how does this process start?
In the construction process, you have to start working with other people who are actually building the space that you design. You have contractors, subcontractors, plumbers, electricians, people who are working with lumber and all kinds of other materials. All of these materials have codes or rules for how they need to work in a space. You need to make sure that this construction process is on schedule and being completed according to the plan. The people who you will be working with will need to also be following your drawings just the way you want. Remember, everybody needs to work together to do a good job so you can satisfy your client.
Okay, so tell me, what would you tell someone who might be interested in becoming an interior designer?
Well, if someone was deciding if they wanted to be an interior designer, I would ask them if they are interested in creating space. Are they interested in how people use everything around them? Do they like art? Do they like to meet people? Do they like to learn about all kinds of jobs and users and how these people use their environments? How do they see things? In fact, do you ever look at spaces around you and think that you could do better? Interior designers want to make better designs and improve spaces to solve problems. You will need to have a creative sense, and if you have a passion for space and architecture, then this is a great field for you.
Thanks, Steph. You seem to enjoy your work and want to really care about what your clients are looking for. I think an interior designer like you can design a great classroom. It would be nice if schools had more classrooms where students could learn more creatively to better collaborate and communicate with each other. I enjoy learning about how you help people by designing the spaces they need. Your work is important. Thanks for letting me take the time to explain what you do. See you next time. Remember to always be curious.